In 2022 I bought this camera for 5 grand. Leica Monochrom. Type 246 if you're the sort of person that cares about Leica type numbers, which may suggest deeper issues like tax brackets and childhood validation that we don't have time to get into today. In 2023, Nikon released this, ZF, with a switch on top of the camera that claims to do basically the same thing, for 2 grand. So the question is, did I waste 3 grand? And before you ask, yes, it's all related. Right, here's what we're doing today. I'm pitching Nikon ZF's black and white mode against a proper monochrome sensor, Leica M246. Not a camera comparison, these are completely different tools. One's a rangefinder from 2015 and the other one is a mirrorless from 2023. It's all about the image. Can a digital black and white conversion match a camera that physically cannot see color? We're shooting portraits, we're shooting landscapes, we're using colored filters like it's 1975. Let's find out. Right, before we get technical, let's talk about commitment. This camera cannot shoot color. Physically impossible. The color filter array has been removed from the sensor. You buy this, you're committed to black and white. For good. Or at least until you sell it and buy something else, which is what most people eventually do. It's a marriage. You put a ring on black and white. You wake up every morning and that's all that you shoot. No second thoughts, no wandering eye. The ZF? A ZF is a polyamorous art student. It wants to experiment. It's fluid. It wants to shoot black and white today, color tomorrow. Maybe even try some video on the weekend. It refuses to label itself. Great freedom, exhausting energy. And here's the problem with all that freedom. It may lead to paralysis. You stand there thinking, should I shoot this in black and white or color? And while you're thinking, the moment's gone. The lights changed. Your subject walked away. You've missed it. Monochrome doesn't let you think. It just shoots. Black and white. That's it. Limitation breeds creativity. Or at least it forces you to make a decision and live with it. So the image quality question may not be the only one here. It may also be whether the ZF can match Monochrome's discipline. We're about to find out. Right, and the last thing before we get going, the methodology. We're going to use same lenses on both cameras. For portraits, Voigtlander 50mm. For landscapes, Zeiss Biogon 35mm. Same lens, same framing, same light. So the only variable is really the sensor, which in this case, they are both 24 megapixels. So we're also comparing like for like in terms of resolution. On top of that, we're using these: yellow filter for portraits, red filter for landscapes, and a wild card, an infrared filter, Monochrome's party piece. Now, I genuinely don't know how ZF is going to handle the filters, so we're finding out together. Right, let's go. Portrait test. Subject, my daughter, who's significantly less cooperative than a professional model, but does demand payment in snacks, praise, and emotional reparations. Right, the same setup on both cameras. Voigtlander 50mm, f2.8, standard portrait settings. First, Leica Monochrom. First, no filter, straight black and white. Now, with the yellow filter. The monochrome will handle this exactly like film. The sensor sees the world through the yellow filter, renders it accordingly. ZF? Genuinely don't know what to expect. Let's see. JPEG should be fine. The RAW file should have a yellow cast, which might actually be useful for commitment. Now, I wish we could get consistent framing, but this bugger just won't stop moving around. So, the portrait test. And I had to reshoot all of those photos the very next day because apparently I can't manually focus for shit. which is impressive given how smug I usually am about it. And here's something I genuinely did not expect. I got more in-focus shots on the Monochrom than I did on the ZF. Turns out, all those bells and whistles, focus peaking, magnification, more of a distraction than an actual aid. Right, let's get into it. Right, here's what we've got. 4 images, 2 cameras, 2 scenarios. Let's dig in. The Monochrom, no filter, straight raw, processed with my usual workflow. The ZF, monochrome picture control, JPEG. And here's the uncomfortable truth. They're pretty close, but not the same. The monochrome files are crispier, not sharp, crisp. There's a slight difference. It's the same difference you'd notice between a camera with an AA filter and one without. The Monochrom has one less filter in front of the sensor, one less thing getting in the way between the light and the pixels. The detail is just more defined, especially in textures, skin, fabric, hair. Now, the yellow filter. Right, so this is where things got interesting. The Monochrom with a yellow filter, exactly as expected, film-like behavior. The filter darkens blues, lightens skin tones. Classic portrait look. No surprises. The ZF actually handled it surprisingly well. But, and this is important, I had to set the white balance manually. If you don't, the ZF tries to compensate for the color cast and the result is, let's say, unpredictable. Set the white balance manually and the monochrome JPEG does a decent job of reading the filter effect. So, lesson 1. Manual white balance. Non-negotiable when using filters on the ZF, which is either bug or a feature. It all depends whether you trust yourself with making decisions. I don't, so for me, it's a feature. Landscape test. Same location I used for the pixel shift video a few months ago, which was also a disaster but for different reasons. Only this time, it's all covered in snow. Right, landscape. Zeiss Biogon 35mm red filter. Now, red filters are film photographers' favorite. They turn blue skies almost black. They make white clouds pop and add drama. On film, that's transformative. On monochrome, it works exactly the same. The sensor sees red light, renders accordingly. On the ZF, well, we'll see. Now, there's about 10-meter drop either side of this rock. I really need to be careful, especially with snow, because one false step and... Landscape comparison. This is where it gets properly interesting. Red filters on both cameras. Same scene. The monochrome with a red filter is exactly what I bought this camera for. Look at that sky, almost black. The clouds have dimension. The tonal separation is pristine. The ZF monochrome JPEG did a decent job. Sky is dark, contrast is there. Now, deep tone monochrome. This is where Nikon gets a bit cheeky. Deep tone is massively overexposed with the red filter. Way too bright. And I think I know why. Nikon's deep tone monochrome is basically applying a digital red filter internally. So when you screw in an actual red filter, you're doubling up. It's like putting ketchup on a tomato. Nice try, Nikon. So, lesson 2. Don't use deep tone with filters. Use standard monochrome. Set your white balance manually. Job done. The monochrome with the IR filter. Beautiful. You can fake an IR converted camera look with this. Long exposure, dreamy, otherworldly. The ZF actually does a surprisingly decent job. The effect is there, but the exposure time has increased significantly. This is because the ZF sensor is simply less sensitive to infrared light than the monochromes. The monochrome, having no color filter array, picks up IR light more readily. So it works, but it takes longer, which on a mountain with a 10-meter drop is an adventure. High ISO. Both cameras pushed hard. The monochrome at high ISO is genuinely impressive for a 2015 camera. The Monochrom's noise looks like film grain, organic, chaotic, gritty. The ZF's is smoother, more digital. One looks like a stylistic choice, the other looks like a mistake. Neither is bad, they're just different. No color noise, obviously. Well, duh, we're shooting black and white. There is no color noise on either of these cameras. And one more thing, overexposure. The Monochrom has no mercy for clipped highlights. Third stop over, they're gone forever. On the ZF, I can recover up to 3 stops in Lightroom. 3 stops, which is either a brilliant safety net or an excuse to be sloppy. It all depends on your discipline. We're back to commitment, aren't we? Right, the verdict. Is the M246 Monochrom better than Nikon ZF's black and white mode? Yes, obviously. It's an expensive tool designed to do one thing. If it wasn't any better, I'd set it on fire and claim insurance. Which, to be clear, I already Googled. The files are crispier, and micro contrast is superior. Tonal separation? Much cleaner. The filter behavior is much more predictable, and the highlights clip beautifully. No mercy, no safety net. And there's something about shooting with a camera that cannot physically see color. It changes how you think. You stop seeing the world in color, you start seeing it in light, form, pattern, texture. It is the closest experience to film I've ever had. All of the nostalgia, none of the chemicals, and surprisingly, exactly the same cost. The ZF is a 2 grand mirrorless camera that happens to have a convenient and excellent black and white mode. It's not the same as the Monochrom, but it's closer than I expected. And with color filters and manual white balance, it can force a similar discipline. So, who should buy what? If you're a black and white aficionado with 5 grand to spare and understand that you're buying a tool that does one thing exceptionally well, if you want a mirrorless camera with an excellent and convenient black and white mode, but still want flexibility of color, or if you want a little bit of commitment and discipline, just buy yourself a set of filters. Or you could just shoot JPEGs, I suppose. So, did I waste 5 grand by picking up the Monochrom instead of waiting for the ZF? No. Because Monochrom taught me how to see things differently. It removed the choice, and by removing the choice, it made me better. Would I recommend you go and spend 5 grand on one today? Also no. Because ZF will get you 90% of the way there for a fraction of the cost. And the remaining 10%? It only matters if you're obsessive enough to care, which I am. Which is why I own both, and which is also why I'm injured. Turns out, making camera comparisons is pointless and dangerous. Don't try this at home, or on mountains, or near 9-year-olds who know karate. Right, before I go and find a hospital, I made 2 picture control files for the ZF, and 2 Lightroom presets for everyone else. And because my ego needs scratching from time to time, I named them G-flat and G-sharp. Flat preset is exactly how it sounds. Flat tones, low contrast, maximum editing flexibility. G-sharp, on the other hand, is more contrasty, more punchy, closer to the look how I edit my files from the Monochrom. Both are free. The PC files should work on any Nikon that accepts them. The Lightroom presets should work with pretty much any RAW file from any camera. Now, they won't turn your ZF into a Monochrom because, quite frankly, physics don't work that way. But they'll get you closer to that look than Nikon's default black and white mode. Use them as a starting point. Tweak to taste. Come back and tell me I'm full of shit. Links in the description. And if you want to support the channel and help me pay for the medical bills, there's a coffee link down there too. Or just share it with someone who's considering spending 5 grand on a camera that cannot see color. Save them from themselves. Right, I just thought of one last test. Architecture, but since the widest lens I have is 35mm, I need to back up a little bit. There's a busy road behind me. So as long as we're careful, we should be fine.